So meanwhile,
pretty much, you want to talk a little football?
Well, here, I want to talk about the fact that Lewis got the Texans right. You and I gaffed on the Jags.
I wasn't close on the score.
Who cares about the stinking score?
I know you got the team. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the team, right, exactly. Listen to my man.
And by the way, that was a massacre.
It was bad.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would have thought that, Jaguars could have lost that game. I don't think they would have figured they would have lost like that. Being in London, being prepared 6 years in a row, the Texans just took them to the woodshed. I mean, it was a butt whipping. So, but we have a new quarterback, Scott. I think you kind of heard about him. I think you were sitting next to me when he went down, when he got crushed by Chris Jones, and we all knew immediately that he wasn't coming back.
Right.
So
I know. I was there right with you when it happened.
Oh my God, it's the right move.
Yeah.
And I told you, you give me the topic, and I could talk for a while. But it's the right move. I like Gardner. I think the excitement that he brought to the team, and the charisma, and basically making football fun again in Jacksonville is great. And he's going to do wonders in the NFL. But this is the right move. And I don't think anybody really could argue that. This veteran's going to be the one that's going to hopefully get us back in the playoff race.
Well, the lopsided score certainly made Coach Doug Marone's job a little bit easier, without a doubt. I remember when we were there, I was up there recently, Marone said he was going to make the decision when he felt he had to do it. He wouldn't be back into a decision. And I guess a tough trip from London back to Jacksonville and a 26-3 score probably helped him sleep a little easier if he wasn't sleeping on the plane.
I got to be honest. I thought, honestly, when he said he wasn't going to make the decision right away, that he was going to choose Minshew. I'm not saying that that would be a bad move, but I vacillated back and forth between the idea of, the reasoning. I know he said the body of work. He said all the right. Marone says all the right things, and then he does what's best for the team. Kind of like we talked about, he's doing a better job than we thought. However, a lot leaves to be desired for last week. I gotta tell you, the play calling was very vanilla. He didn't challenge downfield. The defense got gassed and got gashed by the running game. This is, above everything else, the Jaguars got some things they got to work on. But and I know we talk about that, next time. Right. Nick Foles played 10 snaps to start the season. And while everybody was excited about Gardner and how can you take the ball away from the guy who wins 6 Rookie of the Week awards out of 8 weeks and whatnot, you and I were sitting there in the last play that Foles had in the Jaguar uniform was a 35-yard dime in the end zone, in the corner, to DJ Chark when nobody else can catch that football. Right. And Gardner Minshew can't make that throw yet. So that's the lasting image I have of him.
Well, me too. I sat there with you.
Yeah. And I know that there are people that, he's a generational guy in that Minshew, I'm saying about he's a generational guy in that he attracts the masses. I'm not saying he's a generational player. I'm saying he's generational character, and I'll use that term loosely. He embodies fun.
Right.
He plays the game. He's the fun guy. He's the persona. He's the character. He's the moxie. He's the grit. He's the everything that you want in a quarterback.
Right.
But he's not a Super Bowl winner. He's not a Super Bowl MVP, and he's still really green. So this was a nice audition.
Right.
It's how would you characterize it? It's the beginning of his learning process. I don't know if you can say that 8 games in the NFL is your complete education. I know that he's got a future in the NFL, and hopefully he has a future in Jacksonville in 3 years when they have to decide whether they're going to keep Foles.
Well, I believe he will. And
I don't think Jacksonville's going to look to trade him. I think it would be foolish to. You keep him there, let him learn. Who knows? This is the second time Foles has broken his clavicle. Does that mean that he's injury prone? We don't know.
I agree.
He's every quarterback's susceptible to injury. Keep him there. It's great having two quarterbacks who can win in the league.
Well, you have to. It doesn't hurt that the Jaguars made a little bit of money off of Minshew Mania either.
No, true.
Why not?
Jacksonville's never had two quarterbacks in this situation before. Two good quarterbacks. It's not. Sorry, it's not. Sorry about that. It's not David Garrard and Byron Leftwich.
Right.
And I love David Garrard, and Leftwich was hurt and then came back in the playoffs, and it was a terrible move, and everybody questioned it. It's not one of those situations because they weren't the same caliber quarterbacks as the ones that are on our roster right now.
Right. No, I'm with you. I understand. You're dead on at everything. Yeah, I think that the only way that Minshew would have kept that job is if the Jaguars would be, what are they, 4-5, 7-2.
Right. If they had won last week and he had won convincingly, and he had beaten New Orleans, if he had beaten New Orleans or Carolina, or a combination of, he probably would have kept his job.
Right.
Just based on the fact that you can't. It's 7-2. You can't unseat the guy that gives you the best. Because it's 7-2. If you lose your last 7 games, then everybody's getting fired.
Right.
That's the worst case scenario. But it's 7-2 and 7 games left, and if you can't win 3 of those and get in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, then you've got a problem.
Right. That's true.
So it's a scenario that we're going to play over and over again because you don't get the local radio here. But the worst thing that could happen to Nick Foles on Sunday when he comes back is if he comes out the gate and throws 2 picks, and people are going to be clamoring for Minshew. It's almost like Nick has to go out and have the game of his life the first game he comes back to silence naysayers.
Well, the best part about it, he's got time to get back in sync. So, they have
True.
a week off. He'll have a week with the first team reps. Taking those.
He looks good on the side. I mean, he's not, what we see of him.
Right.
When he's throwing the football, he's not any kind of contact drill. He's not running. He wasn't eligible. By the way, they did today. In addition to naming him the starter, they took him off the IR today.
Right.
So this is a move that systematically allows him to do all the things that he wasn't able to do before.
Right.
I don't know what happens. Maybe you know this. It's a dead week. I mean, he's not in the stadium working out. He's not getting treatment. He's not studying film because they're not there.
Right. Well,
so this just allows him to.
He's probably spending time with his family right now, knowing that this is going to be one interesting stretch. I would think, right? Has his family moved to Jacksonville? You know?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, he and his wife and his little girl are somewhere in Jacksonville.
Okay.
They're all here and they're all invested, and it's a great thing. And he's here for a reason. I mean, that's been adamant amongst the staff and the front office. He has a Super Bowl ring, he has a Super Bowl MVP, and that's what they want. I just think it's a good move. And I know people who I've talked to are on both sides of the fence with it, but it's the best move for Jacksonville right now. And then I can also give you 88 million reasons why you should start too, Scott.
I'll leave your 80 million reasons for Thursday's show. Lewis has a question.
No kidding. We'll do that again. Yeah.
Yeah. So David, Scott, I'm going to ask you this, and I mean, listen, their Week 11 matchup is against the Colts. Jacoby Brissett, by all accounts, for all 3 of us, I think has been a surprise this year. He's been a lot better than people thought he would have been. Out of the gate, first year as a starter in the wake of Luck's retirement. 5-3 right now. We'll see what they do. I don't know. Do they have a bye week this week? I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think so.
But who would you rather have starting that game? Would you rather have Minshew going up against Brissett? They do have similar play styles where there's a little bit more of a reliance on the run game, or would you rather have Nick Foles going up against
I think that's easy. Nick Foles.
Yeah, and so it kind of shows
I want Foles. Yeah, I do want Foles starting. You're right, but
it kind of shows you the change in perspective, even from a fan's perspective, as opposed to a coach, when we see storylines develop. I mean, yeah, I'd rather have Foles starting that game. I mean, obviously Minshew would be in there if Foles has a rough first 2 quarters, maybe even gets off to a rough start in the third quarter. But yeah, again, I mean, if you really want to get back to 500 and keep yourself in the playoff hunt, I think you want to go with Foles. And you know what? Let Minshew hold the clipboard and learn. Foles is a very good guy to learn from. He's not a star, but at the same time, he's very respected. And I think he's a perfect upper echelon kind of guy on that team to learn from.
Well, I mean, they brought Nick Foles in with the intent that they wanted a veteran quarterback that would, right? Right, Dave?
Yeah, and the one thing that, and I know you get the transcripts too, the one thing that Minshew goes back to time and time again is that Foles is the one that's his cheerleader. It's his personal quarterback coach. It's his mentor. It's his big brother. That's the guy you want on the team. And like I think we talked about this. He's the antithesis of anything that Blake Bortles ever was.
Right.
I mean, so I'm talking about Foles.
Right.
He was brought in for a specific reason. He's a leader. He's a community guy. He's a family guy. He doesn't have a persona of being, I don't want to say it. He's mature, but he's a different type of quarterback. I'm just going to say that. I don't want to say anything wrong. There's a definite style to the way Nick Foles is, and there's a different style to the way Bortles was, and they didn't want that anymore, regardless of the bad play. And Minshew comes in, he's a rock star. And he's the guy that talks about drinking Jack and trying to break his hand. And he wears the bandana and whatnot. And he is the antithesis of what Foles is in a good way.
Right.
Because everybody's so excited, I think it's a really good situation no matter what for the Jaguars because they have 2 quarterbacks for the future.
Oh, I agree. And you know what? Let me add to that is when you have a good quarterback room with mutual respect for the 2 in there, I think that's nothing but good karma, without a doubt. And we both have gotten to know these guys. You obviously know Foles a little bit more than I do because I wasn't up there as much during the off season.
Right.
But, obviously, after the first game, and I'll get to know Nick as time goes on, but I've gotten to know Gardner a little bit. Their quarterback situation, I don't think, has ever been better than it has been than now with these 2 guys.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can make the argument that if you look at quarterback combos in the NFL, that right now, provided he is healthy and stays healthy, Jacksonville has one of the top 5 quarterback combinations in the league.
Yeah.
That's a great backup combination.
Right.
Yeah, you can point to like Kansas City's a good example of a very good backup combination. We saw Matt Moore with a big win against Kirk Cousins the other day. That's a good. That's another one there.
Yeah, there are, but this is a unique situation, as David and I both know. You always have to have 2 good quarterbacks, anyways, no matter what. I mean, but the reality is you have 2 guys that are easygoing, community oriented. Have been pretty much underdogs their whole careers, and now you have these underdogs under one roof rooting for each other. That's what makes it such a good situation. That's why I think Doug Marrone gets off easy with 2 personalities of this nature because you don't know what kind of friction it would go. And let me go back to another thing that David's been saying too, that Doug Marrone is one of the finer coaches to work with because he's very straightforward and he lets people know. So, some cases it could divide the locker room. Not with Doug Marrone. He's a calming influence. So if there's any coach that can easily handle that, it's him. Well, we got you. I'll give you about 2 minutes or so, David, to wrap up, and then we'll go into the dynamic of Foles and Minshew more on Thursday. So you'll have more time to talk about it. But go ahead. What are your closing thoughts on this?
I'm curious to see what happens on Monday when they come back.
Okay.
Everybody rallied, and I'll make it quick. Everybody rallied around Minshew. It was a devastating thing. We saw it. The stadium was silent. Players were on the sidelines going like, "Holy cow! What just happened?" So they rallied behind this kid, who rallies them to 4 wins. I don't think anybody really thought that they would get 4 or 5 wins in the first half without Foles.
Right.
And then they go back to the starter. And the start and the coach, and everybody that was interviewed today, from what I saw transcripts, they all complimented the fact that Foles was back, but they were very complimentary of this kid. That kid has the respect of the locker room, and that's really hard to get for a rookie. especially a quarterback.
Well, he earned it. You also have to look at the fact that he played pretty much all of preseason to avoid the injury thing to Foles, so he got a lot of reps.
And then it happened.
And then it carried over nicely into the first game. So who says preseason doesn't matter? With the Jaguars, it mattered.
Mm-hmm.